En esta lección vamos a revisar los pronombres de complemento indirecto, o IOPs. So in English it's indirect object pronouns. So sometimes I use this abbreviation in class or otherwise. So primero la definición. El complemento indirecto indica a dónde va el complemento directo. El complemento indirecto usualmente es una persona. So in other words, the indirect object is the person, usually, that is receiving the direct object. Right, los pronombres de complemento indirecto en español son me, te, le, nos, os, les. Y significan en inglés me, me, te, you, singular and formal. Le can mean him, her, it or you, singular formal. Nos, us, os, you, plural, so like you all, informal, only used in Spain. And then les can mean them or you, plural. Again, this would be you, formal in Spain, but in Latin America it's just you, plural, because there's no distinction between formal and informal in the plural form of you. Y ahora vamos a revisar algunos ejemplos en inglés. Número 1. I gave the ball to John. Que en esta oración, the ball is the direct object, and John is the person receiving the ball, so he is the indirect object. So again, the indirect object is what we're concerned about here. So the person usually receiving the direct object. So, número 2, tenemos, I gave him the ball. So the ball still is the direct object, but we've just replaced John with him. So in this case, this is the indirect object pronoun. So ejemplo número 2, I told the truth to my parents. So objeto directo, the direct object is truth. That's the thing being told. So it's the thing being acted upon directly by the verb. And who's receiving the truth? My parents. So my parents are the indirect object. So ejemplo número 2a, I told them the truth. So the truth is still the direct object. But now we've got my parents being replaced by a pronoun, them. So them is the indirect object pronoun. En español, el pronombre de complemento indirecto. So now we'll look at how these look and work, how these work in Spanish. So algunos ejemplos en español. These again the same sentences from the previous screen. So número 1, le di la pelota a Juan. I gave the ball to John. Right, so tenemos el pronombre de complemento directo, la pelota, and Juan's receiving it, so is the indirect object. But notice here, this is something that's very important, that even though I've stated who the indirect object is, Juan, I still need to include the indirect object pronoun. So the rule is, if there's an indirect object pronoun in a sentence, indirect object in a sentence, then you must include the indirect object pronoun even if you state who the indirect object is. So there's this sort of redundancy. So this is optional. If it's clear who the indirect object is, you can just say le, but to clarify, you need to add this prepositional phrase a Juan to indicate to whom le is referring. So we can see in ejemplo número 2, le di la pelota. La pelota is still the direct object. And this time I've just left out the prepositional phrase. Le di la pelota significa I gave the ball to him, or I gave him the ball. Número 2, les dije la verdad a mis padres. I told the truth to my parents. We still have the direct object, la verdad. And we've got the indirect object, mis padres. And then we've got the indirect object pronoun that we need to include, which is referring to mis padres. So if we just drop this out, then we get Les dije la verdad. I told them the truth. Right? But again, in both cases, you must include the indirect object pronoun, whether it's mentioned or not. And that is how you use indirect objects in Spanish.